from the News Channel 5 Network. This is OpenLine.
You're going to want to just join in and either listen to intently or just be part of. So remember, the number will be on the bottom of the screen. I want to introduce you to today's guest. It's Allen Sircy. He is the author of Southern Ghost Stories. Allen, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
This is going to be a fun thing because I love it. I was telling you, I don't like scary movies, but I love ghost stories because of the history around them.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with it going on a carriage ride in Savannah, Georgia. And it was a ghost story carriage ride. And I just thought I could do this every day. And you did too.
Yeah, it's kind of how I got started. My wife, I didn't want to go to Savannah. I wanted to go to the beach. And so she drugged me down there kicking and screaming the whole way. And I got there and I fell in love with it. We did a ghost tour and it was fun. And all those big picturesque, beautiful squares of Savannah, they're all big mass graves.
Yeah.
And when Sherman marched from Atlanta down to the sea, you know, the mayor of Savannah, he surrendered and said, hey, don't burn us. And all that beautiful architecture from the 1800s is still there.
So that kind of lit your fire. You've written several books. I mean, this is just 3 of them.
Yes,
How many books have you written by now?
Oh, 9 or 10, 11
Wow.
maybe. It all runs together.
So you've lost track. From Nashville to Gallatin to up to Louisville, I think. I mean, you name it, you've written about it in the ghost stories. What really sparks your interest? What makes this?
Like you said, the history. It's just, I live behind an old house in Nashville, Travelers Rest, and weird things happened to me. First night I was there, a trash can moved 8 feet in the middle of the night, and weird things happened. I hopped the fence and walked over to the mansion. I'm like, hey, is this haunted back here? Oh, no, I assure you, here it's about the Indians and the Overton family, and there's no ghost here. So I go to leave, and a lady gets out of her car, and she walks out, and I said, ma'am, I live right over there, and we're having some weird things at the house. Is this place haunted? Oh, honey, there's ghost stories, but I can't talk about it. I said, okay, I get it.
Oh, so she wouldn't.
A lot of historical sites kind of just, they don't want to talk about it. They think it's bad for business. But one thing I found out, like after 2020, when the pandemic virus stuff happened, those historical sites kind of loosened their lips a little bit. I had one director tell me a historical site, they're down 75% from the previous year. They had to do something to get people back in their house. So ghost tours, ghost stories, and that's a big bump.
Yeah, well, okay, well then how do you know when they're real? Like there's really something to them, because anybody can make up a story.
I mean, like one historic house, I was talking about a friend of mine today, the Lodes House in Franklin. Battle of Franklin took place right across the street. Well, when it's over, they went to that house and became a hospital. A lot of guys died there. So I was in the house around 10 o'clock one night, and I heard this boom. It was like a brick being thrown against the side of the house. So I walked in the hallway and saw a lady. I said, did you hear something? She said, yeah, it sounded like a rock hit that wall over there. And I thought it was a brick. She said, rock, okay, maybe I'm onto something. I walk outside, there are 2 guys out there smoking. I said, hey, did you guys close your door or did you make any noise? Well, we got some cigarettes. We're parked over there on the other side. So it's like, I heard something, and that lady did too. So maybe there's something going on here.
Right, so when you are collecting stories, no matter what area you're going through, how do you filter them?
Just research, just talking to people and talking to multiple people who work there, and then doing the research and seeing what happened there. I like the history. Yeah. But I want to tie the ghost story to history. I want to know why it's haunted. That's what I try to do in these books.
All right, so the latest one surrounds Nashville, is that correct?
Which one? Well, the thing is, I wrote Ghost of Gallatin in 2019. I did Murfreesboro, Spiritual Stones River in 2020, and then Opryland in Franklin in 2021.
Oh, wow.
And the whole time on my back burner, I had Nashville. I've been tinkering with it and piddling with it off and on. And back in January, I sat down at my desk and I was thinking, I've got 800 pages here. No one's going to read this. It's too big.
Oh, my goodness.
So I just kind of got dejected. I'm like, what am I going to do? So I was laying in bed one night and just an epiphany hit me. I'm going to break it up. Do downtown, north, south, east, and west. Okay. So I dropped downtown in March. I dropped south in August. And west will be out next spring. And now the other 2 will sort themselves out.
Find their way out soon enough. Okay, so we have a lot to go through tonight. I'm so very excited. Does anything shock you anymore when you uncover things?
Well, I mentioned earlier, ghost stories are fun, but when you get a Frankenstein story, that's a home run.
Okay, so tell me about that.
Okay, see, galvanism was a big thing in the 1830s. Mary Shelley published Frankenstein. That was the first science fiction novel ever. So all these crackpot doctors and scientists thought, hey, I bet I can do that too. So it happened in Franklin. It happened at Lindsley Hall in South Nashville behind Tribeca. It happened in, there's an account, I think, in Louisville. The thing is, they would, like at Lindsley Hall, there's a guy named Knox Martin. he was to be hanged for killing his wife or girlfriend. So they took him down to the hanging field, which is where Trevecca was, and they hanged him. He was executed, and these doctors gave him some money, some silver, and they took possession of his body after he died. So they hung him. The sheriff said he was dead. They cut him down, took him back to this canopy behind the field where everybody's watching. The execution was a big public event back in the day. Thousands of people would come to wherever the execution was to see it. So you get thousands of people looking on, and they're watching Knox Martin hook up this battery. So they hook it up to him, and he shoots up, he draws a breath, his eyes open, and the battery dies, and he just falls back. So after that, the doctors take his body back to Lindsley Hall, which is the medical college at the time. So they take him to the medical college, and it's behind closed doors, no one knows what happens. So 2 or 3 days later, the editor for the Tennessean got a letter from someone in Lafayette. Hey, we saw Knox Martin, he's walking home to Alabama. 2 days later, someone sends another letter. Hey, Knox Martin's in Alabama walking home to Selma.
What?
And then a week later, a prominent banker in Nashville got a package with a rope and like a tintype picture of Knox Martin saying Knox Martin's still alive. So it's just, I know they didn't revive that guy, but just someone's messing with these people in town and trying to keep the story going that Knox Martin was revived and he's real Frankenstein walking home in Alabama.
Wow.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Do you so obviously there, you know, something of the time sparked this story and this legend, but it lives on. What makes things have that power to just live on?
Just a wonderful tale, you know. It's a story you can tell and retell, and then it gets bigger and grander over the years. But that Knox Martin story I found was just kind of just buried. I found it in old newspapers. It happened in Franklin also. There was a guy who was, his name was Dr. Ferdinand Stith. He had an office where the courthouse is on the square. It was this little wooden building. It was torn down to actually build the courthouse. Well, he made a deal with a slave who was going to be hanged, and after he was executed, took possession of his body, brought him back to his little shack there where the courthouse is, hooked him to a battery, same thing. And, you know, he kind of jolted around. When the battery died, he faded down, he fell away. Well, that happened, and people kept talking about it. It's just, this is the guy who revives dead people. You know, it's a cool story.
Yeah. So what separates you from the folks who like go out and try to, like the paranormal hunters? I mean, have you ever done any of that?
I've done a little bit of that. I'm more of a researcher. I like the history that draws me in. I've been on those things, and I've had some weird experiences I can tell you about later if you want to. But I have friends who have the equipment, and there's, I try to debunk everything I can, but I've been in some situations where I can't debunk it.
Yeah. So, I mean, you fully believe in ghosts. It's not just the story, the lore, the legend.
There's something,
you fully believe.
There's something out there, yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Nashville specifically.
Okay.
You said you've released 2 so far. Tell me again.
Downtown Nashville and South Nashville.
Okay, let's talk about downtown first.
Okay.
All right, take me through some of your stories.
Well, I was telling somebody the other night, one of my favorite stories is the Capitol, just right across the street over here. Back in the 1800s, that's where the lawmakers went, and they did their business, and they go there at night. So they meet in the courthouse at night, and there's no streetlights, of course. You know, there's no electricity. So they go inside the courthouse. They have candles. They have lamps. It's full of light. Well, they walk outside on the portico and just fall over the side and break their legs, or fall over and break their neck and die. It happened a lot.
Really? I mean, really?
Yes.
It happened?
There's like over a dozen times where kids will go up there and climb and fall, or people will walk out from the brightly lit room out to the pitch black. It's like 3 feet. Back then, there's no rails. Now there's railings. It happened to a lawmaker. He fell over and like, oh, we got to do something about this. They put up a rail. But before that, you had people walking up there and just falling over. It's crazy.
And so do you think they still haunt the place? Are there stories around that?
I've had people who work there tell me there are stories in the Capitol, yeah. They'll hear footsteps, hear voices. There's a story about the architect and the guy who was over construction of the courthouse. They're both, or the Capitol, they were both buried inside the walls of the building, and they didn't like each other in real life. They say that Mr. Morgan was over the purse strings, and Strickland was the architect, and he wanted this big show place, and they butted heads all the time. Well, they buried them both in the wall, entombed them both in the walls when they died, and they say they argued with each other at night. So it's a cool story. I'm not sure how much of it's true, but they say they hear voices in there.
You said even before we went on the air, this story where our station, or this property where our station is, kind of like has a seedy history.
It's funny, when I came here in 2019, someone joked that, oh yeah, our station's haunted. And I came back last year and someone joked, oh yeah, there's people who see things and hear things.
Oh, I didn't
and then
know
I started digging. This area back here behind the Capitol, it was called Hell's Half Acre. It was a very poor part of town. During Reconstruction, a lot of poor people lived here. It was full of saloons, houses of ill fame, if you will. And it's a lot of bad things, like people get stabbed or shot and robbed, and it all happened right in this part of Nashville. So there's no telling what was right here.
I'm gonna start looking over my shoulder around this place. I've been here 7 years, and so far I don't think I've had anything weird, but maybe I'm just not receptive to it. I don't know. All right, we would love for you guys to chime in. If you have questions about areas around Nashville or your hometown that you think, is it haunted? Give us a call. Tell us your own story too. 615-737+ is the number. We're coming right back.